Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating journey through the history of gold. We're going to see how this incredibly shiny piece of metal actually reveals the deep underlying psychology behind what you and I call money. Seriously, it's an unbelievable story involving ancient stardust, powerful empires, and, well, most importantly, human belief. Let's get right into it. To start us off, consider this staggering physical reality. If you took absolutely all the gold that has ever been mined in all of human history and gathered it in one place, it would fit into just one single giant cube sitting in Washington, D.C. Just one, that's it. Now, it's dense for sure, but visually, it is remarkably small for something that has literally driven human civilization and human greed for millennia. Which naturally brings us to a huge, glaring question. What is all this gold even used for? Like, why do we actually spend so much energy digging up and hoarding this heavy, shiny metal? This really sets up the central mystery of its value.
And the answer is surprisingly concentrated. About 45% of it is used for jewelry and decoration. Think necklaces, massive gold Buddhist statues, or ancient Egyptian coffins. Then you've got a really small slice used for industry, taking advantage of its special chemical properties for things like teeth fillings or the electronics in your smartphone. But the rest, a huge portion of this metal is literally just sitting in deep underground vaults, mostly in places like New York and London, quietly gathering dust in the form of bars, even as its price skyrockets.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, from stardust to status. So, to truly understand the psychology of gold, we have to go way back to its cosmic origins. A lot of the gold humans have mined actually came to Earth hitching a ride on asteroids, loaded up with heavy metals formed from exploding stars. Yes, it is literally stardust. It just sat there in the Earth's crust for billions of years until rivers eroded the dirt and revealed this dense metal. But what's absolutely crucial here is that it's soft, it's workable, and most importantly, it's incorruptible. It doesn't rust, ever. It's eternally shiny, absorbing blue light and reflecting yellow and red, kind of like the sun. Ancient empires totally noticed this. The Incas actually worshipped it as the sweat of the sun, using it to adorn their faces and temples. It was an aesthetic and religious marvel to them.
But as humans started gathering in larger groups and empires grew, the story evolved. This brings us to Section 2, the first psychological leap, the invention of money.
Before gold came along, societies used intrinsically useful things for trade. Think cows, for example. A cow physically feeds you. It can walk to transport itself. It has super obvious utility. But let's be honest, cows make terrible money. They spoil, they get sick, they're incredibly hard to divide up for small purchases, and you definitely can't carry them easily on a long journey. Gold, on the other hand, is incredibly easy to carry. It's highly durable and easily divisible. But here's the catch. Gold doesn't feed you. It doesn't keep you warm at night. Its power relies entirely on one massive psychological ingredient: collective belief. We went from trading obvious survival utility to trading a universally agreed upon shiny rock.
And wow, did this collective belief eventually turn into an absolute mania. When the Spanish arrived in modern-day Mexico back in the early 1500s, they found the Aztecs using literal mountains of gold. But to the Aztecs, they were using it for decoration and worship. It wasn't an economic currency for them. To the Spanish, however, it was the ultimate economic wealth. As one Spanish conqueror vividly put it, we suffer from a disease of the heart that can only be cured by gold. It's intense, right? The Spanish violently conquer the Aztecs, melting down all that sacred, beautiful art into uniform units of value, and essentially kicked off a ruthless European race for more gold.
And that greed, it only intensified into the 1800s with massive gold rushes in places like California, Canada's Yukon, and Australia. Regular people, desperate folks with nothing to lose, crossed treacherous oceans and freezing continents just for a shot at striking it rich. As one historian so beautifully wrote, this era was a murderous, cruel, intoxicating, brutal adventure that swallowed an entire civilization and spat it out as coins. This intense collective belief had officially inflamed human greed and was now moving massive populations around the globe. But here's the thing. Physically carrying all this heavy metal around eventually becomes a huge problem for growing economies. Which brings us to Section 3, the rise of paper, abstracting wealth. So, the crucial point here is that humans basically had to abstract their wealth. Enter the gold standard. People started depositing their heavy physical gold into banks, and in return, the bank gave them a paper banknote, which was essentially just an IOU. If you had a $20 bill, you could walk into a bank and redeem it for roughly 1 ounce of physical gold.
Think about how incredibly far we've drifted from trading cows at this point. We are now literally trading pieces of paper, just trusting that the bank actually holds the shiny stardust safe in a vault somewhere. We shifted our trust from carrying the shiny metal to carrying paper.
Now, what's really interesting about this next shift is that it signals the absolute most controversial leap in economic history. Welcome to Section 4, the birth of fiat, uncoupling from gold.
Let's walk through this rapid timeline of how exactly we uncoupled from gold. In 1913, the US government created the Federal Reserve to centralize banking and try to prevent financial panics. But then, during the Great Depression of the 1930s, terrified citizens ran to the banks to pull their physical gold out. The Fed, feeling constrained by the finite amount of gold it actually had, hiked interest rates to defend its gold reserves instead of lowering them to pump more money into the economy. Now, economists strongly debate this move, with many arguing it actually made the Depression last a whole lot longer. So in 1933, FDR issued an order recalling American gold, basically untying the government's hands to manage the economy with more flexibility. Fast forward to 1944, the US dollar becomes the globally accepted currency, backed by gold for foreign nations. But America ended up printing way more dollars than it actually had gold for. So when countries like France came knocking asking for their metal back, President Nixon officially closed the gold window in 1971.
And that leaves us right here with fiat money. Currency established as money purely by government decree, backed solely by trust in the government rather than any physical commodity like gold. The government and the central bank can now invisibly pull economic levers to manage the money supply. Honestly, this is the ultimate psychological leap. We abandon the physical anchor entirely, placing our complete faith in the government's ability to invisibly manage a super complex economy.
Let's just take a step back for a second and look at this incredible, centuries-long mental journey. Step 1, we valued useful goods like cattle that physically fed us. Step 2, we abstracted that to precious metals, valuing the shiny, indestructible nature of gold through sheer collective belief. Step 3, we abstracted even further to paper bank IOUs, just for convenience. And finally, Step 4, we arrived at fiat, completely removing the physical anchor and relying on pure trust in a system managed by 19 people in Washington, D.C. It is a stunning, absolutely fascinating evolution of human psychology.
So, if we've completely evolved past it, that brings us to Section 5, why gold is back, return to the tangible. Why are modern citizens and even foreign nations suddenly panic buying gold again? Let's look at the modern anxieties causing a regression in our psychological leaps. We're seeing a real retreat from the dollar. Recent years have seen the imposition of tariffs, serious fears of rising inflation, and a lot of political pressure placed on the Federal Reserve. All of this creates a loss of faith in fiat currencies. When people in rival nations feel that the big, squishy psychological bargain they've made with the government is getting sketchy, well, they get spooked. They flee the abstract fiat system and regress right back down the ladder, returning to the tangible, undeniable safety of that shiny metal.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. As faith in fiat wavers, some are turning to digital assets like Bitcoin, calling it the true digital gold that doesn't rely on a central government at all. It presents a pretty fascinating question. Is digital crypto the next step in our psychological journey of belief? Or, no matter how advanced we get, are we forever tethered to the incorruptible safety of ancient stardust? When things get truly uncertain, human beings just might always return to the shiny metal. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the source material on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the systems you interact with every single day.